Hey, welcome back everyone. I've got some thoughts I'd like to share with you guys today on a number of different topics that I think would be helpful at the time right now with what we're going through. And there are a lot of emotions, there are a lot of people that are feeling down about a lot of different things, not just in the US, but around the world. And I think it's important to talk about some of these things. There's so much to talk about that I'll have to cover a lot of things in more detail and additional topics in additional videos, but this is one that I think is important today. I'm going to talk about a couple different things today. One, I'm going to talk about the QAnon movement, the trust the plan thing, whether it was a Psyop or not, and I don't believe it was, and I'll explain my reasoning behind this, and I could be wrong. I'm going to talk about why this might be happening, and from a higher level, from a perspective of the divine or spiritual nature, because I think that's important. A lot of people have their beliefs, and I do too, and I'll explain my perspective on things. I'm also going to talk about some very practical things that I think are important for each and every one of you to do moving forward, to be in the best possible position that you can for yourself, your family, your community, your country, and eventually the world. So let me first talk about the QAnon movement. You have seen a lot of people criticize anybody who has believed in that. They say it's a psyop, you were led astray, it's all fake. We saw the mainstream media really attack it just a couple months ago and try to label anybody who believed in it as a right-wing conspiracy theorist. And just like they're vilifying the right now, anybody who voted for Trump, anybody who's an independent thinker, they're vilifying them. So I want to talk about the Q movement, whether or not I think it was a psyop. A lot of people do believe it was to lead people astray, to give them false hope, and I admit that is a possibility. However, when I look at things logically, it doesn't make sense to me, and here's why. If you were the elite, the power, the people in power, and the people that wanted to maintain power, the argument that some people say is, well, they wanted to put out Q to give people false hope, to make them not pay attention to what was really happening with some tyrannical agenda, not only in the US, but other countries, really worldwide. And I look at that and I say, if you were the bad guys, why in the hell would you want to put out something that would energize a lot of people? And first of all, make them aware of a lot of really shitty things that are happening around the world. Why do you want to bring that to their attention? It's much better to keep that in the shadows and silent. Why would you want a lot of people aware of that? And why would you want a lot of people hopeful? Because that's a dangerous thing to do. I look at, when we are faced with overwhelming odds in life or in the world, that it seems like, in many cases that you and I, we cannot overcome those things. There's no chance in hell that we're going to be able to make things right. And in a lot of cases, that's true. We have limitations as individuals. We don't have the power. We don't have the voice. We don't have a lot of things to make big changes and improve the world at grand scale. But when you get a lot of people together in a common belief that something can be done, you energize an incredible amount of people, and you can make things happen, even if something doesn't go down, like Q was saying, that you open the door to other things happening at a massive scale. And if you're the bad guy and you want to stay in control, doing a psyop like that is extremely dangerous to your power play that you want to keep playing around the world. So I look at that and I go, I don't know that it was a psyop. Some things may have been disinformation. Yeah, sure. But I don't know. I certainly, I'm somebody that I want to always have hope in something. I get down like everybody else and I go, this sucks. Like this, something good is never going to come out of a certain situation. Something's not going to improve, but I always eventually bounce back to having hope in humanity, my fellow man, even though sometimes they let me and they let you down pretty significantly, and hope and belief in the divine. And I know I don't have the same concept of God that a lot of people do. I don't have a more traditional Christian view of like a singular entity as being, God or God the Father. But I believe in God consciousness. I believe in the divine. And I believe that there is divine purpose for things that we see around us, for our lives. And I have to look at things that happen and I go, there's a reason for everything. And it's like when you're going through shit, you don't see it. And a lot of times you don't see things clearly, until they're, in the rear view mirror, until you've already passed things. So we don't always know what's happening. I believe that, we have in a lot of our spiritual and religious texts, a lot of prophecies about things that would come in quote unquote the end times and the different prophecies out there. And I believe in that. That stuff didn't come out. It's not just like random stuff. A lot of things have a lot of similarities, and I have to look at that. There's a divine purpose for things, whatever that is, and you can't always explain it. And that we are living in very interesting times, and it sucks to when you consider like you're right in the thick of a bunch of shit. It sometimes is very gets you down. Like you have to live through this and experience this, but at the same time, you have the opportunity potentially to see a lot of good things happen. And I look at things and I go, I'm not somebody that believes that we are doomed to a specific fate that is written in a book, or that somebody says that something's not going to work, that the world is going to fall into tyrannical grip, that we are going to be living in just an enormous prison planet. And that is a possibility for the future unless we stop it. But it is not an inevitability. Even if somebody prophesied it, even if somebody said it, I look at, that we always have free will, and that we have the ability to change our lives and the lives of others, and to change the course of human history. And we need to take that into consideration, and that there is a purpose for our lives. And I have to believe that. I mean, it could be that there is no purpose, that it's just random. I don't believe that, but some people do, and I respect that view. But I look at the things that happen and I go, there has to be a reason why these things happen. There has to be a reason why shitty things happened in the past year to the whole world. There has to be. And I look at some of the good things that came out of it, and a lot of people, one of the good things is a lot of people's eyes were opened to the overreach of government, some of the tyrannical stuff that's been happening just in the past year, and some of the stuff that's been happening under the shadows, under covers, for a long time. And so that's good. It's painful. It's frustrating when we find that, but it's better to know, because once you know, you can figure out like, how do you deal with it? How do you solve that problem? You don't want to let something kind of go on and continue in the shadow and have it negatively affect you or the world, other people. You want to be able to know about something so you can solve it, so you can try to fix it the best you can. And so I apologize. I still have a cold. It's getting better, but I'm still really nasally. You have to believe in something bigger, that there's a bigger reason for this, and that good things can come out. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen or what the reason necessarily for anything is. But if you look at where we're at, we have a unique opportunity to change the course of human history in a big way. We also, if we don't do anything, we are going to be a part of the boat that basically goes over the edge of the earth into the abyss. And we're going to have a very dystopic future. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for our kids and future generations. So I think it's important for all of us, the best we can, to help out. And you can help out in different ways. I want to talk about some different ways that I think are important. One, I think I think that it is important, if you have a belief in God or universal consciousness, whatever your belief system is in a spiritual sense, is that you spend some time in prayer and meditation, and ask for and contribute to, send your good vibes, your good thoughts, your prayers, your energy towards helping other people helping the world. And I think that's one thing that's super important for all of us to do in whatever way that works for you. I think that's super important to do. And I try to meditate every single day and picture a better world for people all around. There are so many things that I'd like to see changed, and maybe you don't get to see those till after you're dead. I mean, I don't know what happens after you die. I mean, maybe you just kind of disappear into a blip in black hole space or something, and maybe there's reincarnation. I don't know. I have no idea. Nobody can really say for sure. We all have our ideas, but so maybe this life is just something you have to go through and do the best you can. But either way, whatever the case is, you want to be in a position where you make your life and your family's life as good as you possibly can, and to try to help out other people, even if selfishly that just makes you feel better about yourself and what you're doing. I think it's super important. Okay, so a couple important things, and I'll go into detail on some of the financial stuff more in detail in future videos, but one thing that I think is super important is if you haven't already, is that you realize that most of what you see on the mainstream media is completely false, and it's meant to divide people, and it's been extremely successful at doing that. We see that with just immense polarization in the U.S. and around the world. You have to realize that it's not, most of what you see is just a fabrication. It's intended to piss you off, to get you down, to get you attached to one side of a certain point of view. And you've got to look for sources of information and news that are outside of the mainstream. Some in the US at least, and this stuff is accessible worldwide because of the internet, which is amazing. News sources like Newsmax or One America News Network are a lot better than the mainstream media. And who knows what they're going to be, and I'm not going to say that they're infallible at all. But it's a different place to get some news, some information about what's going on. I think it's important to stay on top of the news at a certain level, because there's a saying in the Bible that I think is very wise, and I'm going to paraphrase it. And that it says something like, a wise person sees the danger and takes the necessary steps to avoid the problem, right? And the stupid person, the person who doesn't want to take the time to read the news to stay on top of things, is gonna run into calamity. And that, unfortunately, is the vast majority of people around the world, because people don't take the time to learn about what's going on, big things that are really important. I think previously in the history of the world, it's been okay to kind of take a back seat, kind of be in the passenger seat, and not stay on top of what's happening, and just kind of coast along in life. I think that's been okay, but with where we're at right now, I feel like it's very important to stay on top of what's happening, because a lot of things are changing very quickly, and some alarming things are happening, and if you ignore that stuff, you can get trampled. So I think it's super important that you stay on top of news. One of the places that is very useful, and I know it's a tough place to go, is Twitter. Twitter is full of a lot of shit. It's a lot of hate and a lot of bummer stuff. But it's one of the best places that I've found to get news information that other people like you and I find and that we share. And so that's super important, I think, to get on places like Twitter and check things out. In the description of this video, I've got links to 2 of my Twitter profiles. My previous Twitter profile account got suspended, so I started using another one that I had, and I also just the other day created a secondary one, because I think the main one that I'm using right now will undoubtedly get censored, shut down, suspended, because I'm going to tweet, retweet, or follow somebody that the system doesn't like, or I'm going to say something that the system doesn't like, and it'll get suspended. This is just the way it is. I've accepted that. But other places that you've heard about, or maybe that you haven't, that you can get on and get information, are places like Gab.com, which is sort of a Twitter alternative. And there are alternatives to YouTube and Facebook, places like MeWe or Rumble or BitChute. Examine those things, sign up for those places. A lot of the people that got deplatformed from Twitter, from Facebook, from YouTube have gone to those places, and that's where they post their information, so check that out. and follow them there. You always have to use discernment with whoever you're listening to and wherever you're getting information sources. Be critical of anything that you're getting, and that includes me. That includes anybody that you're listening to. You have to make your own decisions and use logical thinking as to what is right or wrong for yourself and your family moving forward. So you got to stay on top of the news. I think it's super important, even if you are not somebody that's out there and you don't have a big voice either because you don't want to get out there on social media or attend a rally or something like that, is that you at least support the people that are out there doing that. And a real simple way to do that, I know it's tough to do sometimes on Facebook, because if you like something or repost something on Facebook, your friends and family see that. And a lot of times they're your toughest critics and they're the toughest people to face. But an easier, safer place, as it were, to do that kind of stuff is Twitter, where you can like somebody's tweet. And just by liking it, you make that tweet get more attention, and it gives some feedback to the person who's posting it that you appreciate what they're doing. And I think it is so important at any time, in normal times, to do that kind of stuff, to show appreciation for people, to like a video, to share a video, to like a tweet, to retweet something, because it helps motivate people to do something. I know it helps to motivate me. It helps to motivate other people that create content on YouTube or elsewhere. When we see people are viewing the video, people are sharing it, people are liking it, people are making comments on it, whatever the comments might be, I think is good to have a good discourse on things. One of the important things, and I've talked about this before, it is super important, and this is not, I don't want this to turn into a prepping channel. There are a lot of really good prepper channels out there, but you need to, in my opinion, become as self-sufficient and self-resilient as you possibly can. And it's not possible in today's society to become 100% self-sufficient or self-resilient. It really just isn't. But the more that you can become self-resilient, whether by growing your own food or building up your savings, building additional streams of income, learning new skills, I think is super important with where we're moving into. At any time it is, but especially with what we're potentially heading into, what it looks like we're heading into, is to do some of that kind of stuff. Learn to grow a garden, learn to save seeds, learn to if you're able to, wherever you live, get a firearm and learn to shoot, learn to defend yourself, learn to hunt. Things like that are super important in today's society with what we're facing, I think. One big thing, and I may have mentioned this before, I think it is really important for everybody to make as much money as possible in an ethical manner, because that lets you get ahead. It improves your quality of life, your family's quality of life. It allows you to do things like put some money aside for savings or to make wise investments in things that will benefit you and your family. One of the biggest forms of slavery that we have in the modern world is financial slavery, and we are all slaves to money in one form or another. None of us is free, unfortunately, but is to get yourself in a place where you are as financially stable as you possibly can. And one of the I look at, like, if you really want to improve your life, your family's life, in the world, the community around you, in the world as a whole, is to make as much money as you possibly can, because you can deploy that money towards the people, the projects, the things that really matter, that make a difference to yourself, your family, community, and people all around the world. And one of the things, the methods of doing it, one of the asset classes you can invest in is cryptocurrency. And I think crypto offers regular people who don't have a lot of money a huge chance to get ahead. And I think the establishment knows that. And we've seen people like Janet Yellen come out recently, and she thinks, she's trying to promote the whole message that cryptocurrency is used by criminals. They don't like it because they're not in control of it. It's a financial system, as it were, for the people that is not controlled by the governments, not controlled by the bankers, and by the establishment. And that's why I like it. And I think, with some of we're at the start of a bull run, which means that, things are really heating up, and the prices, the valuations of different cryptos have gone up significantly, and most likely will. There's not a guarantee in anything that you invest in. And none of what I'm saying is specific financial advice for you. I'm not a financial advisor. Anything that I say, just it's more me talking to my younger self, and you're listening, and you can make your own decisions. But cryptocurrency, I think, is going to do very well. It offers somebody the ability, in some cases, to do a moonshot. And what I mean by that is to put some money in, whether it's $100 or $1,000, into something that could potentially do 1,000x. And that means $100 could turn into $100,000, or $1,000 could turn into $1 million. And it's not guaranteed. It doesn't, you gotta choose wisely. And sometimes things don't work out like you think they're going to, but that kind of return isn't possible in other asset classes. And so I'll do a video specifically on cryptocurrency and talk about some of the things that I've invested in that I think are going to do well. Obviously, I'm not just shooting in the dark when I make my investments. I'm doing an educated guess. I'm doing research and making a determination as to what I think is going to do really well. But again, nothing is guaranteed. So I think one thing in general is, with the continued COVID narrative and what's happening, and COVID's never going to be over. The mask mandates, the vaccines, the contact tracing, it's never going to be over unless we, can make massive change. It's never going to be over. So that's going to have a huge negative impact on us and everyone around the world in a major way on multiple levels, financially, emotionally, mentally. Just your ability to run your own small business, be an entrepreneur, it's going to affect that. But if you can make the most money as you possibly can in an ethical manner, it can put you and your family in a better spot. And one of the reasons I like that is it gives you options that provide you with more freedom. It gives you mobility. It gives you options in life that otherwise aren't available to you if you don't have the money. So I'll help you with some of those things, some advice that I would give to my younger self, to make some investments that I think are wise. But regardless of what you invest in, I feel like if it's something real, it's going to do super well because the governments of the world are going to keep printing money at record paces. And that is going to devalue the value of the US dollar, of the euro, of the Canadian dollar, of the yen. It's all around the world. It's a race to the bottom. And if you just put your money in the bank, it becomes worth less and less because of inflation. And anything that you invest in is probably going to do really well in that environment, whether that's gold, silver, cryptocurrency, quality stocks like dividend stocks from solid companies, or farmland, real estate. Those things will probably do very well because they're real things that will maintain their value much better than fiat currency, in my opinion. And I think we're about to see an explosion of money printing in the U.S. and elsewhere. And there's a lot of talk, if you're familiar with it, something called the Great Reset, and a lot of this is being driven by the World Economic Forum, one of these big, powerful organizations that are run by the people that basically control the world, the big bankers of the world. And they're pushing for something called the Great Reset. What's going to happen as part of that is a lot of people, and a lot of middle-class people mostly, are going to lose a lot of money, a lot of purchasing power, and that's going to flow towards the super wealthy. And that's just the way it's always been. And if you can't change that, the best you can do is set yourself up to be a part of the better end of that transition of wealth. For those that don't take action, that are unwilling to listen, unwilling to learn, they're going to be the victims of this, unfortunately. So it's important to invest in things like gold, silver, land, cryptocurrency, in my opinion, and even stocks. I don't know that we'll ever have a stock market that actually is connected to the real world economy again. I don't think that'll happen. It might, but I don't think it will. And we have a lot of issues, obviously, and I'll go into more of these topics in detail in future videos, but I just think it's super important to stay on top of news, take action for yourself and your family that can put yourself in a better position. You don't need to be like super wealthy, but you need to have more options, more financial security than most people. It's always just be on the higher end of preparedness, of financial security, of knowledge than other people, and you're going to be in a good position, the best possible position you can be. And that sets you up to allow you to help yourself, your family, and other people as well. So it's super important to do that, in my opinion. And I really think it is important to get in touch with the divine, whether you believe that is God, your higher self, global consciousness, universal consciousness, whatever that is. I think it is super important. We are at, I think, a critical stage in the world. I don't put anything out of happening. I really don't. I'll go into a talk about this in the future, but I'm somebody that I look at religion, spirituality, and I combine that with things like science and physics. And I go, this is an amazing universe / matrix / whatever we're in, that allows for basically possibilities of anything happening. Physicists, scientists know that quantum physics proves that anything, absolutely anything, is possible. Because all possibilities, all possible things that could happen, that could exist, do exist at some reality. And in fact, all those realities are existing and happening at the same time. Just like past, present, future happen concurrently, which is a messed up idea. We experience time in a linear fashion, but that is not the way it works. So when you look at what is possible and what is not possible in this reality that we experience, this 3D world that we are experiencing, I don't put anything out of the question in terms of what is possible for us as a human race. And even from a possibility of receiving divine intervention in whatever form that may happen. I'm not gonna write that out. I would like to see that happen. I believe that that is possible, and I think it's super important that you consider that. If you don't, if you just, instead of just writing things off, believe in a higher power and the possibility of things getting better, and focus on that, and send your love, your prayers to other people and to the world. And it can't hurt, right? Even if you're somebody who has a lot of doubts about it, it's not going to hurt at all to do that. All it's going to do is help. So consider doing that. Anyway, that's it for this video. Some things to think about. Going back to Q one last time, I have a hard time believing it's a psyop. Do I believe there's some false information in there, some disinformation? Sure. Probably is. And it led a lot of people, maybe down too many rabbit holes. But overall, I look at it as being something very positive. I know people are getting down about things not happening the way they wanted or in the timeframes they thought. But it opened up, that whole movement opened up a lot of people's eyes all around the world to corruption in the government, elsewhere, and it highlighted problems that needed to be changed. And that I see is extremely beneficial. And that's one of the main reasons I look at it and I go, I don't know that it was a government-led psyop or a deep state-led psyop. It's a dangerous thing to do, to give a bunch of people hope, and to expose a lot of what's happening in the deep state or the swamp or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. Give me your opinion down below. I know opinions are all over the place, but anyway, so that's it. So get in touch with the divine, pray, meditate, do some practical things like stay up on the news, support the people that are putting content out there on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Figure out how to get more self-resilient and self-sufficient for you and your family. Whether that's, learning to use firearms, learning a new skill of some kind, whether it's computer programming or learning to grow a garden, learning to preserve food, whatever it is, become more self-sufficient, self-resilient, and spend some time figuring out how you can increase your financial position in life, because that gives you a lot of options for helping yourself, your family, and the world. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys are doing well. I will catch up with you guys soon. And let me know in the comments other things that you'd like me to talk about. I'll certainly talk about that stuff. There's a whole bunch of things I know that we can cover, and I'll do videos on different things moving forward. Anyway, you guys take care. Good luck. God bless. Godspeed.